Welcome to Vidya's Kitchen. I have with me a very special guest today, Dr. Vijay Sri Saravanan, MBBS, DGO, FRCOG, CCT from UK. Dr. Vijay did her schooling at Good Shepherd Convent and Adarsh Vidyalaya, Chennai. She did her medicine at Kasturiba Medical College, followed by DGO at Keelpok Medical College. She completed her higher specialty training in Manchester, UK, specializing in urogynecology and pelvic floor disorders. She now practices as a consultant urogynecologist at Isabel Hospital, Chennai since 2014 and runs her own clinic called Cure Healthcare. Today's show will focus on women's health, especially after 40. Dr. Vijay, thank you for joining us today. Hello.
Thank you, Vidya. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I think we're okay.
Yes. Okay.
Let's just make sure that everything is okay on Facebook. It says Vidya's Kitchen's gone live, so I'm sure we are live, but there's always, let's just make sure everything is on and live. I have with me a very special guest today, Dr. Vijay Sri Saravanan, MBBS. Going live. Perfect. So let's start with why 40 then? Why are we focusing on women's health after 40? And first of all, thank you very much for joining us today and lots of interest in this show. So thanks a lot. And why are we going for 40?
It's absolutely my pleasure to be on this show in your channel, Vidya's Kitchen. So thanks a lot for inviting me. So I've been watching your channel and the lovely varied recipes, all Indian cuisine and others as well. So I've been enjoying all of that, watching them. So yeah, coming to our topic. First of all, women, because I deal only with women and gynecology, so I'm specialist only to comment on women's health. And why 40? Because 40, I think, as we all, as all our age group, I think all our friends, our classmates, we all have kind of touched and crossed that age group now. 40 somehow in every woman's mind, it's, they start, a kind of an alarm bell starts to ring, I guess, for most women. The issues that crop up are menopause, hormone problems, health disorders like medical health problems as well, general health problems like diabetes or the blood pressure problems, heart problems. So I think 40 is a mixture of everything, hormonal, medical, all these conditions. And to be honest, 40 is an age where we have to start to get seriously thinking about preventing, try and plan to have a healthy retirement. So if you start thinking about a healthy retirement at the time of retirement, I think it's a bit too late. So while you're 40, you start planning about how you make sure you're going to be as fit as possible and lead a healthy enough, retirement and enjoy your retirement. So that's around 50, 60, 55 to 60. So I think for a good and healthy retirement, you plan from 40. I think that's very important.
Perfect. Now, shall we first focus on menopause, perhaps? I think after 40, that's one thing that's the most common thing, I think, personally,
Yes.
that all of us kind of wonder about. We know we get a lot of education for young girls, for teenage girls when they start their period. But I think when we finish off, I don't know how much education we get. So I think that's one
Menopause, menopause is not common, but it's universal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Everybody goes through it.
Yes.
Yeah, all women go through it. So it's just the stigma of it. It's just the fear of it. The M word. I think everybody is a bit, they don't know what to expect. They're a bit anxious about the whole idea of menopause, while it is something that every woman goes through. So just talking about it and having more awareness will actually make you feel comfortable about it. So yes, you were asking something.
Sorry, I muted myself there. No, I was just saying, yeah, these things happen. These kind of little glitches happen during
Yeah,
our. No, no, we were talking about menopause. So carry on, please. Let us
yeah.
what you think.
Okay. So, menopause, to be honest, after the age of 40, we do start worrying, or it's something that's on our mind that when am I going to go through menopause? Am I going to suffer, the effects of menopause, and how is it going to be? So, just a plain, a kind of a simple, some words about menopause. What exactly is menopause? Is when you have no periods for 12 months. Then, looking back, we can say that yes, you probably have gone into menopause. So it's normal after the age of 40. So if you do not have periods before the age of 40, or if your periods stop, if you're menopausal before 40, that's not normal. So you do need to go and see a doctor, because you're losing your hormones very early in life. So you will need replacement. So after the age of 40, it's hard to tell when exactly you'll go through menopause, because it's different for each woman. It depends on a little bit in your, it's in the genes, like your mom, your sister, around what age they went through menopause roughly. So currently, I think the age of menopause has been pushed up with a good nutritional status and all that. So I think in the UK, the average age of menopause was 50, 51 years. In India, in Indian women, it's between 48 to 51, 52, I would say. But some women do continue to have periods till the age of 55 even. It's not abnormal as long as you are getting regular periods. So after 55, definitely, I would still not say it's abnormal, but I would say definitely have a check, get checked. So basically, menopause is when you stop having the cyclical hormones in your body, the cyclical, secretion of the female hormones in your body. So that's lost, and basically, you lose the capacity to reproduce, so you cannot get pregnant anymore. So that's what is menopause basically. For from a women's point of view, what effects you can see is initially around the time of menopause, a lot of ladies can have period irregularities. Some have very heavy periods before they stop. So it's not abnormal in all of them, but definitely get checked. Make sure you have a scan, you see a gynecologist, because in a small percentage, cancers of the womb can present in that way. So if you do have very heavy periods and very irregular periods and a lot of bleeding in between periods, then that needs to be looked at. So besides period irregularities, some women can have a lot of hot flashes and night sweats. These are all symptoms of the lack of hormone. So your body adapting to that lack of hormone. So you can have these symptoms for 2 years, max 5 years. For some women, there is no symptoms. They don't have experience any of these. They smoothly go into menopause. Some do have troublesome symptoms. So it varies from person to person. But if they are really troublesome, please see a doctor. And some can have mood swings, sleep disturbances, a lot of mental health issues also can crop up, which is not only psychological, it is hormone related as well, because your body is suddenly deprived of these feel good hormones. So if you really think it's affecting you and you're having a lot of trouble with your everyday routine, then you must see a doctor, because they will be able to help you sometimes with a small dose of antidepressant, or sometimes you might even need a little bit of hormone replacement to tide you over these troublesome symptoms. So these are the things that you may experience around the time of menopause. Later on in the long term, so what exactly do we need to keep in mind? What do we have to avoid, prevent? Is osteoporosis, which is thinning of the bones. So because of the lack of your hormones like estrogen and progesterone, your bones get a lot thinner and weaker. So you do, fall at a risk of having fracture of your bones if they're really thinned out. So we do need to watch out for that and take preventive steps to make sure you don't end up with very thin bones later on in life. So the main preventive measures for that are to exercise. Yeah, exercise, a little bit of muscle strengthening, and make sure you do some strengthening exercises around the common sites of fracture, which is the wrist, the spine, and the hip bone. These are the three common sites which can actually become very weak as you go later on in life. And of course, we do suggest calcium and vitamin D for all women after menopause to make sure that we are supplementing with adequate of calcium and vitamin D to improve bone strength. So besides osteoporosis, the other common problem of after menopause is cardiovascular, which is either problems with the heart or stroke. Stroke is one of the other things. So these are the things that
Uh,
women are
There's one
usually
thing. So, do you suggest? So, is stroke possible because of menopause? So, does menopause
not
cause, or is that something?
menopause doesn't cause stroke, but the female hormone estrogen actually is protective to women and prevents women from having stroke. So once you lose that protection, once estrogen is gone in your body, it falls, that's when you become at equal risk for stroke, equal to men. Your risk for stroke is equal. In a woman age 60, risk for stroke is the same as a man age 60. But at 40 to 50, a woman's risk is much less, and that's because of the female hormone. So obviously, we have to, be aware of this and make sure you take preventive measures for, to avoid these later on in life. So obviously, preventive measures for stroke and cardiovascular problems are your general health conditions. Like if you are diabetic, keep it under good control. If you have hypertension or
There must also
cholesterol,
some genetic factors involved. Yes.
yes, yes. And you must make sure that you maintain an ideal body weight. Too much of, obesity again puts you at all these risks. So these are all the, main factors that, so the long term, risks of menopause is osteoporosis and stroke. These are the things that, we
Yeah.
need to be aware of and make sure we prevent, start planning at 40 to prevent these. So that's very important.
And when you say planning, we talk about exercise and looking after
Yes.
ourselves, keeping ourselves mentally and
Ex-
physically
yes.
fit.
Physically fit. So planning is make sure you move to a healthy lifestyle. Lifestyle changes is the first line of all these preventive measures. So make sure you eat a healthy diet. Make sure you have regular physical activity, aerobic exercise, or walking, swimming, any of these exercises. Make sure you keep all your medical conditions in check. Your diabetes, any thyroid issues, blood pressure issues, make sure you maintain a reasonably normal body weight. Yeah, not I mean, I won't say you have to be size 0, but at least near normal body weight to
Yes, of
prevent
course.
all your other complications.
Yeah, absolutely. Just as a, when we move away from, let's say someone's trying to conceive after 40, because a lot of women, they focus on their career these days and they put away having children. Sometimes it just happens after 40, they decide to have a child. So, what would you advise women who are trying to conceive after 40? What are the things they need to look out for?
Yeah. So, like Leah, nowadays a lot of women are very career focused. They want to settle down. They want to be in a good financial and economic situation before they start planning a family. But the downside of that is your chances of getting pregnant do fall, as your age increases. So the ideal time is between 20 to 30 is actually the ideal time for conception for women, which many of us cross because of career and all these things. So after 40, I won't say that you do not have a chance to conceive. Many women do conceive after 40, and most of them are unplanned. So if you are really planning for a pregnancy and it's your first pregnancy, first of all, there is going to be a lot of pressure built up on you. So you do have to have, stress relieving measures, but your egg reserve, the ovarian reserve, does fall reasonably after 40. if you are after 40 and are planning to conceive, I would suggest please see a gynecologist for preconception counseling, because they can there is a test called AMH, a blood test, which gives a reasonable assessment of your ovarian reserve, your egg reserve. So they can probably predict how good your chances are of conceiving. Because if it does come out that your chances of conceiving are not that great, then you probably go down the infertility management route much sooner rather than later. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you do conceive, there is something called Down syndrome, where the baby can have a little bit of a chromosomal abnormality. So your chance of your baby, being affected with Down syndrome is slightly higher than a woman who conceives at 20 or 30. So that's with age, because the age of the egg matters for when the baby is affected with Down syndrome. So that's also something to keep in mind. So I'm sure the gynecologist would offer you a specialized test while you're pregnant to kind of try and make sure that the baby doesn't have this condition. So that's one thing that to keep in mind. So yes, definitely, it's not that you cannot conceive, but you will need to be a bit closely monitored, either pre-pregnancy or even after pregnancy.
Is there a risk of gestational diabetes during?
Yes, your risk of diabetes, gestational hypertension, everything is you do fall under high risk category. Yeah, for everything. Because even otherwise, even if you're not pregnant, your chances of becoming a diabetic after 40 do increase. So if you're pregnant, pregnancy is an added stress, so will push your body into diabetes in many women. I won't say in all, but yes, you will need close monitoring in pregnancy.
Okay. I've got a question from someone who's watching the show. Hello, is there any way in which we can increase estrogen naturally, especially in menopausal women?
The reason, one of the thing I would want to know is why she wants to increase estrogen naturally. Yeah, is it for any menopausal symptoms that she's talking about? Uh, we do, yes. There
Possibly
is
the
something.
case. I think she is undergoing menopause and wants to know
Yeah,
how to increase it naturally.
if you are undergoing menopause without any bothersome symptoms, then I would just leave it and try and just do your healthy diet. But yes, for women who do have troublesome hot flushes, night sweats, rather than first jumping to hormone replacement, there is something called phytoestrogens or plant estrogens. So there are some plant food available which does have a higher content of estrogen like substance, which can mimic estrogen and help with the symptoms of menopause. The most commonly, most popular one is soya, tofu, soya, seeds, your flax seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. These are all, so you can find out about plant estrogens. Maybe try those in some form, increase your intake of plant estrogens. So that can help you with symptoms of menopause. The other thing is sometimes we do give evening primrose oil, all these supplements. Yeah, these are all, you'll get them in some wellness shops. Evening primrose oil and vitamin E tablet, Evion, and things like that. Those have also been tried. But naturally, yes, you can try plant estrogens, phytoestrogens.
That's great. I think you've answered her question really well. So plant estrogens such as soya and evening primrose oil, Evion, if required, if there are symptoms of menopause. That's great. And then, of course, we've touched briefly upon the health issues that are possible after 40, such as hypertension. And so, what would your advice be on that? How do we need to monitor that regularly, or are we looking for symptoms? When do we need to get help? So,
I think, I'm really not sure how now in the UK how your GP is going to monitor you, but uh,
That is the problem.
after 40, yeah, after 40, I generally suggest that you have at least an annual health check. Yeah, here in India there are a lot of this master health checks. So after 40 you at least have a routine set of bloods. You check your cholesterol, you check your thyroid function, you check your you can check your vitamin D levels and have a blood pressure check. Pap smear again in women when it comes to screening. Yeah, in women from 40 it gets really important. It's very important. So over 40, what are the common problems? Are these non-communicable diseases? Non-communicable means something that cannot be passed on from one to the other. So they are either genetic or they are just sporadic, like cancers. We don't know. I mean, the incidence of cancers has gone up. So that's something also to be looking out for periodically. So after 40, definitely you need to be having at least once a year check for your sugars, diabetes, your blood pressure, hypertension, your thyroid problems, because thyroid issues are commoner in women and women especially after 40. So if you leave it unchecked, so if you have thyroid disturbances, you can have period problems, you can have weight gain, you can have sleep disorders. So sometimes all these are not picked up, and they're not sure what's going on. And then when you do a blood test, you just find that their thyroid is abnormal. And once you correct that, all these get back in the normal range.
Right.
So the other thing, besides these medical problems, the other important thing is screening for cancer. So when it comes to women, so what are the commonest cancers? The commonest is breast cancer in women. After that, it's probably cervical cancer, cancer of the cervix, which is the neck of the womb. And then, yes, we do see cancer of the endometrium, which is the uterus, the womb, and the cancer of the ovary. So, when it comes to screening for cancers, for breast cancer, the very important thing to keep in mind is family history. So, do you have a family history of breast cancer? Your mother, your sister, especially if it's on the mom side, the mom, sister, mother, sister, so maternal aunt, maternal cousin, anyone on the mom side, it is quite significant. So it runs in the gene. So you do have to be quite cautious. And if your mother has had breast cancer at the age of 50, you should start screening for breast cancer from the age of 40. So 10 years before the diagnosis of, the family member. Yeah. So, and usually it's advised that between 40 and 50, you have every year mammograms if you do have a family history of breast cancer. If you do not have a family history, maybe once every, 2 or 3 years, or you can even start after 45. But 40 is for people who have a family history of breast cancer. And then after 50 or 55, you can space it out to 2 to 3 yearly. You don't need to do it annually. Just the reason being that between 40 and 50, the breast cancers, if they do happen, they are quite invasive and quite, aggressively growing cancers. The cancers that happen later on after 55 are actually slowly spreading cancers. So after 55, we can actually screen every 2 years. So 40, if you have a family history, otherwise maybe after 45. And more importantly, it's very important to do a breast self examination. Yeah, before, you don't expect a mammogram every time to detect a cancer. Yeah, it starts with us at home. So make sure at least once a month you do a breast self examination. This actually, we need to teach even young girls. This has to happen from the age of 20. So you teach them that after every period, when you finish a period, you do examine your breast and make sure there's no new lumps or no new swellings. And if you do have them, report them and get a scan or ultrasound or whatever the doctor will suggest you what's needed. But breast self examination is something that's very, very important. Can pick up early pickup is this is what picks up early breast cancers. Do not leave them till you have a mammogram every time. So that's the thing about breast cancer, because I think the incidence of breast cancer is increasing nowadays, and we really need to be make sure that all women are aware about breast cancer screening. So the next screening is about cervical cancer. I think in the UK you have smear tests, pap smear tests every 3 years, from the age of 25 till the age of 65. So they believe that before 25, I think the cancers
Incidence is
don't,
low.
um, very rare, very extremely rare. And after 65, if you've had regular normal smears, it's very rare for you to, have an abnormal smear after 65. So they stop screening after 65. So I think in the UK, if you follow these 3 yearly smears, I think that should
Don't
be
miss
good
the
enough.
smear.
And
Attend your
yeah,
appointment. Yeah.
yeah, very important. Don't miss your smear appointment. And I think in younger girls nowadays, they're probably giving your injection, isn't it? Your
Yeah.
vaccine,
Yeah.
cervical cancer vaccine.
13. Yeah.
So 11 to 13, I think they are vaccinating all children. So maybe in another 20 years, you won't be doing pap smears anymore. But for now, we still have to convey the population has not been vaccinated. So we will need to continue pap smear screening till the age of 65.
Absolutely.
And endometrial cancer, for the cancer of the womb, it's just your bleeding. The first, it's one of the very early presenting cancers. It's a good cancer in that way. So it immediately presents with bleeding. So if you do have any really heavy bleeding, yeah, or you have a lot of bleeding in between periods, then you do need to get checked. So, and a scan will actually give an idea, so that will pick up any problems. And cancer of the ovary is another one which you really need to look out for if you have a family history. Again, that's very commonly passed on in the family, mother side, like ovary, breast, colon. These are a lot, in the mother side family history. So if you do have a family history of ovarian cancer, again, definitely from the age of 40, every year you should have a scan. It's a bit difficult to pick up ovarian cancers because they're quite silent till they grow. So if you have a family history, you have to have a annual scan to check the ovaries every year and make sure there is, make sure that's okay. So that's a little bit about your screening for
Yeah. Then
cancers.
is it possible, other than menopause, after 40, is it possible to have irregular periods for women?
Yes, of course. After 40, after 40 and until menopause, a lot of women have irregular periods. It's called abnormal uterine bleeding. The causes can be very many. You can have a fibroid, you can have a polyp, or you can have different problems. And you might not have any structural. There's no problem in on your scan or in your blood test. So it's just hormonal disturbances. Your hormones are just not regular enough. It's just the symptom of a failing ovary. So your ovary is slightly, kind of slowly not producing enough hormone and probably going to go into menopause. So it's very common to have hormonal imbalances and menstrual irregularities due to hormonal imbalances after 40. The important thing is to check it out to make sure there is no, cancer or anything that's
Yeah.
presenting in that form. Rule that out. And once that's ruled out, usually we do have some, sort of treatment or something to help you manage the situation.
I've got another question from a viewer. Does a
Yeah.
fibroid have to be removed? Is the question.
um, yeah, fibroid is actually non-cancerous. It's not cancer. It's just a benign growth of the uterus. So it very much depends on where the fibroid, the location of the fibroid, the size of the fibroid, and what symptoms and what problem it's causing to the person. For some women, a fibroid causes difficulty in conceiving. Yeah, then yes, we have to remove it if that's what is the main problem. For some people, a fibroid causes heavy bleeding or, heavy periods or very painful periods. For some women, there is a huge fibroid in the front wall of the uterus which presses on the bladder and causes difficulty with emptying the bladder, or, causes frequency of needing to pass urine. So it depends on what the problem the patient is having and how big the fibroid is. A lot of women have small, 2-3 centimeter fibroids, or small fibroids everywhere, which is really not causing them. If you just see a fibroid on scan, it doesn't need to be removed. Yeah. So if it is really bothering you, then yes, depending on the symptom and depending on how bothersome it is, you can plan, because it is kind of a major surgery. A fibroid is like a part of the womb and it's really vascular. There's a lot of blood supply to that. So attempting to remove a fibroid, you'll have a lot of blood loss. It's a reasonably, I won't call it a minor operation, although you can do it laparoscopically. But if you do not need to do it, you don't need to do it. So it depends on what problem you're having from it.
Okay.
Are you on mute, Vidya?
Possibly.
Can't hear you.
I am possibly on mute. Back now, sorry. How do you manage adenomyosis? Is there any cure?
Adenomyosis is commonly seen in women who are over 35, 40, those who've completed their family. What happens is the uterus becomes a bit bulky and swollen with a lot of blood supply. So the common problems that they have is heavy, painful periods. Uh, but there is a hormone medicated intrauterine device that is quite useful in cases of adenomyosis. It's called a Mirena intrauterine system. So usually when we insert that into the womb, that releases the hormone locally and it actually thins the lining of the womb, and it's quite adenomyosis responds very well to that medicated intrauterine device. So there's definitely treatment for it. You can even sometimes have just tablets during the time of your period to make your period lighter and less painful. So there are you can manage adenomyosis. You really don't need to have surgery for it unless you're
Indicate.
having really heavy periods and your HB is dropping and things like that. But usually adenomyosis is quite manageable.
Excellent. And would Marina also help with menopause issues and irregular periods? Does it have any effect on that?
Yes, well, not for menopause issues, but for heavy periods. In a lot of women after 40, previously, a lot of them underwent hysterectomy. Yeah, hysterectomy was a very common operation before. So now, since the Mirena has come, I think the hysterectomy has fallen by about 50-60%.
Oh, for heavy bleeds, it was hysterectomy was
Yes,
the solution. Okay.
yes. Previously, it was hysterectomy. So now it's not hysterectomy. Yeah, I'm sure even in the UK there, because I've worked there. So we do take a sample from the lining of the womb to make sure there is no cancerous or any such changes, and then we put in this Mirena, and what that does is it releases the hormone progesterone locally and it thins the lining of the womb. So it actually shrinks the endometrium and your periods get less heavier. And sometimes you have no periods also till you go into menopause. But it's a little bit difficult to tell when you are really into menopause. But it can stay there for 5 years. So within that time, at least it's thin the lining of your womb and you don't have bleeding issues. So maybe at the end of 5 years, you can remove it and see if you get another period, you're still on, or you can get it removed.
Okay.
So Mirena has really brought down the hysterectomy rate.
In a godsend then.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Uh, we briefly touched upon mental health during menopause. So, what are the things that we need to watch out for? Is there anything? When do we need to seek help for mental health? I mean, nowadays mental health is as important as physical health, isn't it? Uh,
Definitely,
mental health is
definitely.
any issue.
See, yeah, in women over 40, I think you have many issues coming around you around that time, where one is you're over 40 and your periods start to get irregular, and maybe around that time your kids are all grown up and they're probably planning to leave the house, and you start feeling this emptiness syndrome and things. And you start to feel a bit insecure. Okay, I'm going to be menopausal. Am I still going to be the same? How am I going to be? So a lot of thoughts, I guess, go into a woman's mind at this time. and mental health issues are very common around this time. So it's as and also it is said that there is a fall in the level of serotonin around this time, which is the feel good hormone. So this is what causes your feelings of depression and low mood and mood disorders and these things. So it is very important to talk about them. First of all, it's important to talk about them and not feel that okay, maybe I'm just being funny, I'm just overreacting. It's not that. It's not just psychological. So there are some uh, you know there is some research behind this to say that it is a change and fluctuation in hormone levels that make you feel like this. So obviously, first of all, it's important to have a regular healthy lifestyle. It is said that aerobic exercise actually stimulates a lot of these feel good hormones and endorphins, makes you feel good, makes you feel better. uh, Meditation and yoga, these are things that actually calm you down, reduce your stress levels and help your sleep a lot better. So all these things definitely one must consider and try to input into their routine uh, to see if this makes a difference. If not, yeah, I think I would strongly suggest you have to see a physician. Maybe I think in the UK it'll be a general physician. You will have to go and see your GP to see if they can help you. Sometimes a small dose of antidepressant can really help you tide over this problem. It's not wrong. It's not wrong to take a small dose of antidepressant till all your mood stabilize, till everything stabilizes, and then you start feeling. Sometimes with a bit of time, you learn to cope with it and tide over it yourself. So maybe these
I think
medication
with
can give you
Indian
this.
mentality, I think having an antidepressant is probably a big step. So I think it's a great thing
Yes,
saying it's okay to do that. Even
yeah,
to
definitely.
discuss
That's what.
about mental health I don't think is a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
prevalent.
Definitely. Yeah, we do need to start talking a bit more, a lot more about it, actually. We do need to start talking a lot. And sometimes for women who have very difficult mental mood swings and all this low mood issues, we even do give them a dose of hormone replacement, for a few months, 6 months to 1 year, to help them tide over that condition. It's not wrong. Well, definitely after excluding your risk factors, and if you have a family history of breast cancer, you have hypertension, obviously making sure you don't have any contraindications. But it's not wrong to have some hormone replacement or even a little bit of an antidepressant if you really need to tide over the condition. So we do need to talk a lot about mental health problems.
Yes, absolutely. I think we've touched upon most things over 40. We've spoken about menopause, irregular periods, health conditions like hypertension, cancer, and finally mental health. We even discussed trying to conceive after 40. Oh, I've got another question. Will antidepressants make us sleepy? Is the question I've got.
I think that the newer antidepressants don't. There are many, antidepressant is a very broad term. So there are many different types of antidepressants. So it depends on which one you're being put on. I'm sure the doctor who is prescribing it to you will make sure it's the right one for you. If you have an issue with sleeping, then it might be something that you take at bedtime, and that might be one that might make you a bit sleepy. But if it's not that, I'm sure your doctor will surely check that it's the right one for you, because there are some that do make you sleepy and there are some that will not make you sleepy. So you can check that with your doctor. Yeah, but don't hesitate to ask for an antidepressant just on that grounds.
Don't hesitate to go to the doctor first of all. If you're feeling
Yeah, yeah,
uncomfortable with anything, I think it's important that
yes,
we shouldn't be misusing the services, but I think it's a good idea to just
yes,
go and seek help if we need it. I think that's very important.
yes.
Um, so I think we've touched upon, yeah, I don't have any more questions. And I think we've touched upon most things here. So just as a recap, menopause, we looked at what to look out for and when to seek help and what we can do at home to calm ourselves down and to tide over that period. How long does menopause last? I mean, is it different for different women, or is there a kind of ballpark number that you would say?
I mean, menopause exactly is after 12 months of no periods. Yeah, that's when you enter menopause. Some women can start having menstrual irregularities and their hot flushes and such symptoms even from 2 years before your period stop. So that's called perimenopause, around the time of menopause. Yeah, it can be 2 years, and they can last even for up to 2 to 5 years after your period stop. Max is 5 years, not more than five, but up to 2 to 5 years. Yeah.
Like 5 years
But
is
some
a
women
long
don't have
time.
anything. It is. That's very uncommon though. Max 2 years, up to 2 years is a commoner, time. But 5 years, very rarely we see in women going up to 5 years.
And during this time, hot flushes. And so,
Yes.
how do we tide over hot flushes? What can we do? Is there anything that can be done other than medication?
If you do not want to go, if it's really severe, hormone replacement is one of the few, this is one of the indications for hormone replacement. But if you do not want to go for that, it is just symptomatic. You have to like a cool place, wear cool clothing, make sure you're, close to a fan, sipping cool water, and maybe some calming exercises. These are just symptomatic things to try and control your body temperature a little bit from externally. So hot flushes is basically just sudden vasodilatation where you will start having,
Sweating.
sweats and feeling very hot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've got another question. Knee pain and lower back pain arises around 40 plus. I think you've spoken about this already. Maybe just
Yeah.
a recap on that.
Lower back is that will be your muscle weakness, isn't it? The strengthening, you need to do strengthening, and knee pain is probably from your weight arthritis, from your weight osteoarthritis, those things. But what I was talking about was thin bones, osteoporosis. So how do you know that you've got thin bones? Is where you can have something called a DEXA scan, so where
Mm-hmm.
they scan the bone density. So that's one which will check the bone density in the hip, in the wrist, and your spine. So that will tell you if you're high risk or low risk for osteoporosis at a given time. So if that's what, if you're looking to find out if you are really osteoporotic, that will be a good test. But what this person is talking about is probably osteoarthritis from, you'll have to reduce weight, and you'll have to, knee strengthening and those kind of things for the knee pain.
Okay,
Exercises, strengthening exercises.
absolutely. Strengthening exercises would really help. I think that answers that question. One more, why do women get foot burning sensation after menopause in the foot? Is a question. Is that a symptom?
So, it's an uncommon symptom, not a common symptom, but uncommon symptom. Again, same thing. It's similar to vasomotor. That's what we come down to. One thing you have to look out for is vitamin D. Yeah, sometimes vitamin D deficiency, sometimes any neurological, any burning sensation, something like any B12, vitamin B12 levels, and those kind of things. Sometimes it's sciatica. They have a sciatica with presence like that. So diabetic, make sure she's not diabetic. They can have a diabetic foot, sensory symptoms in the feet. These are all things to be looked at. But yes, it can well be just the symptom of menopause, just like hot flushes and night sweats. Some women can have that. Maybe try some massage, applying some oil, bedtime, massage it with some oil and things, stimulate the blood supply there, stimulate the nerves there. That might help a little bit.
Perfect. I think that
But I
answers.
guess I need to evaluate more to know
Yes,
exactly if
absolutely. I think
that's
she needs to
exactly
be
due to.
keen to be the
Yeah.
person asking the question is very young, so it must be for a relative that she's asking the question.
Okay.
Um, okay, then I've got one more. Oh, the questions are just coming in. Should women over 40 take B12? Is it worth taking multivitamins regularly?
Yeah. See, for over 40, I wouldn't I don't usually I don't suggest supplementation routinely. Yeah, unless you're somebody who has any medical conditions where your absorption problems or any specific medical condition. You should be eating a healthy, balanced diet which has everything. If you're eating good quantity of fruits, vegetables, nuts, good quantity of everything, then you should not need supplements. But we do suggest calcium and vitamin D for women over after menopause for the sole reason of protection against osteoporosis. Vitamin B12 is not routinely advised unless your levels are really low and you have some neurological symptoms. And if you are a vegetarian, they say B12 is very difficult to get from a vegetarian diet. So maybe if the in the those circumstances, but not routinely for anyone after 40. I don't think so. Don't aim to pop pills and get all your supplementation and vitamins from there. Vitamins and minerals should come from your diet.
And drinking plenty of water, does that help as well with menopause? And generally it helps.
Definitely. Generally, it'll help. It'll menopause. One of the things that I actually didn't touch much upon is some of them start to have recurrent urinary infections after menopause. So, making sure you're drinking good quantities of water and making sure you good quantities of water also avoids constipation. So it keeps your bowels well under control as well. So constipation again can be interrelated with urinary incontinence and these kind of issues. So definitely fluids very important. You should be drinking around 8 to 10 glasses per day.
Perfect. Thank you. So I've got some comments, very useful information. And this video show has been so useful. Thank you. Much appreciated. So lots of good
Good to
comments.
know.
We'll get more comments as well. So I think, Dr. Vijayashree has given us a very good idea of how to look after ourselves after 40. Thank you so much. And if you have any more questions, just pop it in the box below and we'll aim to answer it even after the show. So don't feel that this has to end with this. If you have any more questions, just let us know. Just put it in the show's inbox or just put it under the show, the messages under the show, and we can answer it. Not a problem. I think we've touched upon a lot of questions and a lot of information. So thank you very much and much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vidya, for connecting me to your audience. So really appreciate that, and I hope they all found it useful, and I hope it
Yeah,
reaches
a lot of
many,
people
many
have
more.
said enjoyed, very useful information, very good information provided. Thank you. Lots of good comments
Thank
coming.
you.
And I think
Very
rightly
happy.
so. I think you've really given us a lot of information. So thank you so much. I think I'll sign off now. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much. And thanks, Viji. And bye from
Thank you.
Kitchen. Thank you. Bye. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye. Bye.